On the 24th of May 1967, some fishermen came across the body of a young woman washed up on Doolin Strand in County Clare. She was naked except for a pair of underwear. Gardaí were notified and Detective Superintendent John Butler arrived on the scene. And so began a mystery that would span across 4 countries. This is the story of the body on the beach. So the state pathologist, Dr. Maurice Hickey, arrived on the scene and examined the body. He found her arms and legs were fractured, her ribs and skull were fractured, and she had a broken back. It was determined that she would have fallen a great height onto rocks and then must have washed out to the strand. It was said to be a small consolation that she would have died instantly on impact. These injuries were so bad, and the area where she was found was so isolated that the Gardaí thought, like she just fell from the sky. He also established that she had been badly beaten before falling. She had bruises and marks all over her face that were consistent with fists. She also had bruises and marks on her body that showed there had been a struggle. They believed that her clothes had been torn off in this struggle. None of the sources mention signs of sexual assault or anything, so I don't think that's the avenue that this went down. The young woman was said to be in her late 20s. She was tanned, dark features, her teeth were perfect, she had nice manicured hands. The label on the underwear said made in America, so they quickly came to the assumption that she was not Irish and obviously most likely American. No locals came forward to say that they saw her in Doolin. They reconstructed her face, they covered it with makeup, and they released a photo of her from her shoulders up to the newspapers. If you remember, this isn't actually the first time that that's happened. The case with the body in the suitcase, they've also done that, so if you haven't seen that, you can check that one out after this. So they got a lead where a receptionist in a hotel in Liston, Varna, which is also in Clare, it's a short while away from Doolin, came forward to say that an American woman had checked out on the 23rd of May, but this lady was quickly located and was alive and well. There was one other lead, a bit more bizarre. So 2 men and a woman went to the Aran Islands, which wasn't far from Clare, and they went by helicopter. And so kind of like a theory was put out that perhaps the woman fell out of the helicopter or like was pushed out of the helicopter. But again, the 2 men and the woman were found safe and well. Detective Butler believed that the woman had been pushed or thrown from the cliffs of Moher and that her body then hit the rocks below and then drifted across the bay to Doolin Strand. So for anyone who doesn't know the cliffs of Moher, it's like a huge tourist attraction here. I think it's like one of the wonders of the world, but don't quote me on that, but I think it's something to do with that. They stretch for like 14 kilometers, 9 miles. On their shortest part, at the most southern point, at Nag's Head, they are 390 feet in a drop, and at their highest point, at the northern point at O'Brien's Tower, is 703 feet. So the Gardaí searched along the cliffs of Moher, and at O'Brien's Tower, they found a woman's left shoe and a bracelet that had blood on it. The shoe fit the victim. No other clothes were ever found. So the Gardaí, essentially had the crime scene or somewhere to go from. A local woman actually came forward to say that on the 23rd of May, between 3 and 4 a.m., she noticed a car out in a field near the Cliffs of Moher near O'Brien's Tower, and that the lights were on for about 10 minutes and then they disappeared. And she thought it was strange, and then obviously, when the body was found, she came forward to say what she had seen. Unfortunately, there were no other tips or leads, and the case was hitting a dead end. On the 1st of June, the unknown woman was buried at Drumcliff Cemetery with a small funeral that was attended by some Gardaí. On the 31st of May, 1967, 52-year-old Virginia Dominic didn't show up for work. She was a divorced mother of two who lived in an apartment in Manhattan. She was a social care worker at either a children's home or a children's school in the Bronx. Her friend and supervisor didn't think it was too odd that she hadn't shown up. Virginia's daughter, Maria, was actually coming back that day from a holiday in Europe, so she just thought maybe she went to greet her at the airport. Maria, her daughter, was 28 years old. She was known as Pinky, that was her nickname, and she was a former beauty queen contestant, beauty queen. The two women were known to be very, polite and pleasant. They were actually quite wealthy. Virginia's family, she was actually originally from Puerto Rico, so her family were actually well connected. And after her divorce, she moved to New York to raise her children on her own. Maria lived with her mother. They shared an apartment. After 2 days, when the friend still couldn't get in touch with Virginia, she decided to go around to the apartment. When neither Virginia or Maria answered, she got worried. So she actually went to see the building super, and he said that he hadn't seen Virginia in a couple of days. So by now it's like the 2nd of June. This is where it gets a little muddy. Some sources kind of make it sound like that the super reported her missing on the 4th, but I don't know why you'd wait a couple of days then to report her missing. And then it says that he rang her brother, Juan Goya, who was an assistant district attorney in Puerto Rico, and that he got the next flight out to New York. And then other sources make it seem like he did phone the brother, but that it was when the brother got to New York that he went to the police and reported his sister missing. Juan went with the police to the apartment, and they got in and they looked around, and nothing seemed out of place. There was food in the fridge, there was rubbish to be taken out, a wallet and keys were on the dresser. The newspaper dated the 30th was on a chair, so they obviously knew then she had been there on the 30th. It just didn't look like there was no struggle, a sign of struggle or anything, so it just didn't look like there was anything out of place. It looked like Maria had just stepped out and just seemed to not come back. And so this actually worried the detectives. They just thought it looked like a bad sign. Another thing, actually, sorry, is different sources named different people for this investigation. They some sources say Detective Romolo Imundi, and then another source says Lieutenant Francis Sullivan. So they're both different rankings. Possibly they were both involved, but I just wanted to mention them both. They actually found a locked drawer. When they opened it, it was all, strewn about. It looked like someone had been rummaging through it to find something. But I kind of also have to wonder, like, if you were robbing the place, why would you, like, you obviously were looking for a specific thing in there because everything else was neat. So maybe you thought it was there. And then you locked the drawer back again after you. I don't know. Police tracked down Maria's boyfriend, Roberto Martin, and he said that he had actually gone on the 31st to collect Maria from Kennedy Airport, and she didn't show. So obviously he was worried, and he phoned Maria's brother, but he had gone on holiday to Puerto Rico. I'm kind of curious why he didn't call her mother. So maybe they weren't going out that long. Maybe he, didn't know the mother yet. Maybe she didn't know they were dating. Maybe he didn't have the contact details, although she lived with her mother, so he would. Roberto also mentioned that Maria had been dating previously an older gentleman, but he didn't know his name or anything. So again, that kind of would make it seem like maybe she wasn't dating Roberto that long. In the mail, they found a postcard from Maria dated the 22nd of May from Paris, and in it she says that she will write her mother a letter. They search and they don't find the letter, so whether the letter came, whether she wrote it, they don't know. Apparently, Virginia and Maria were both known to have a lot of male friends. I think that may be a euphemism. So the police decided to look at the women's private lives to see if that would lead anywhere. They interviewed one of Maria's co-workers who actually said that the reason for the trip to Europe was because of heartbreak, because she had found out that an older man she was dating was actually married with children, and so that she broke it off and understandably went on a holiday to try, get over it. Police also spoke to Maria's brother, who was in Puerto Rico, and he said he also got a postcard from Maria in Paris on the 22nd, and that his postcard said that she had decided to travel to London and Dublin. So they liaised with Chief Inspector Georges Dur in Paris, and so he spoke to the hotel receptionist where Maria was staying and said that she checked in on the 21st and checked out on the 22nd of May, and that on the night of the 21st, an American man arrived at reception asking for her, and that when he came down, they greeted each other like, like good friends, close friends. Sure couldn't find Maria on any flights departing from Paris, so it was determined that either her or herself and her male companion used false names when leaving. Turning their sights to Virginia, they asked one of her friends if Virginia had any, male companions, and she said she briefly met Patrick Darcy, a 47-year-old travel agent. They interviewed him, and he said that yes, he knew Virginia, but that he hadn't seen her in months. So the police in America decided to liaise with Scotland Yard in London and with the Gardaí Síochána in Dublin. Because of Maria's job, she would have had her fingerprints taken, so they sent a photo along with her fingerprints. Scotland Yard were able to establish that Maria had arrived with her male companion and that she had cashed $6,000 worth of traveller's checks, which is about 46,000 today, which is around 40 grand in euro, just under. And that they then left for Dublin under the names A. Young and Miss M. Young. Chief Superintendent Patrick McLaughlin at the Garda Technical Bureau in Dublin recognised or thought that the photo of Maria looked very similar to a case they had several weeks before of a body turning up on a beach in County Clare. Fingerprints were tested and they were a match. Detective Butler was told that the girl on the beach was Maria Dominic. Gardaí decided not to announce that they had an identity and started trawling through flight records and hotel records around that time. On the 15th of August, Sergeant Michael Purcell of the Immigration Department in Shannon Airport, which is in Clare, found an A. Young had checked in to the Shannon International Hotel at 8 a.m. on the 23rd of May and checked out 4 hours later at noon. This actually wasn't unusual for hotels near airports. Someone might just check in for a few hours to shower and freshen up or to sleep for a couple of hours before their flight. But A. Young was not on any flights that day, departing or arriving, and so they obviously thought that he had arrived by car. They checked, and a car had been registered to his hotel room, and it was tracked down to a Dublin car hire company, and again it was under A. Young. He had rented it on the 22nd of May at 11 p.m. and returned it the following day with 320 miles on the clock. Dublin to the Cliffs of Moher and back is roughly 320 miles. A. Young then left again for Paris on his own. Miss M. Young did not depart. Back in America, detectives checked for an A. Young in New York and turned up with nothing. They checked the address that was registered with the car hire company, and an A. Young did not live there. They checked in with Maria and Virginia's male companions, and none of them, it was established none of them had been out of New York for the dates in May. They did remember, however, that Patrick Darcy said he met Virginia through Maria. They worked together somehow. She worked in the travel business for a short while, and that's apparently how they met. They knew that Maria had been seeing an older man, and so they asked a friend, Maria's friend, about Patrick Darcy, and she confirmed that yes, this was the man who Maria had been seeing, who it turned out had been married with kids, so she broke it off. So Gardaí then assumed that after Maria broke up with him, he turned his attention to Virginia and started dating her. Looking into Darcy, they discovered that he was the son of Irish immigrants, so he actually knew Ireland quite well. He had actually worked for Aer Lingus, which is an airline here in Ireland, and they looked and saw that his travel business was not doing so well. So they had their suspicions about Darcy, but it had already been established that he had not left New York in the month of May. They were hitting a dead end, and so they went through the painstaking task of looking through 40,000 photos of passengers leaving New York for Europe in May. And a familiar face popped up under the name Alfred Young. And despite a very, very, very clever disguise of glasses and a moustache, it was very clearly Patrick Darcy. So obviously they pulled him in for questioning. He then admitted that yes, he had left and went to Europe, but he was adamant that he did not meet Maria and that he did not know that she had been murdered, and that he knew nothing about that, knew nothing about Virginia being missing. He even matched the handwriting that the hotel and the car hire company had to his handwriting. But Darcy wasn't talking, he wasn't answering questions, and they had to let him go. They kept him under surveillance, but somehow he managed to slip off their radar. They were able to look in a bit more to him, and they found that yes, he had several aliases. So there was A. Young, there was also John M. Quinn, and they found that he travelled to Miami a lot. They also believed that he could have had dealings in, undesirables. And so they checked in with detectives down in Miami, and in October, he was tracked down to the McAllister Hotel in Miami. And when detectives knocked on his room, there was no answer, and they went in and found Darcy dead on the bed after taking barbiturates and drinking a bottle of whiskey. I actually didn't really know. I knew the word barbiturates. I didn't really know what it was. Apparently, it's like a depressant for like the central nervous system, and most kind of places have stopped using it because of one of the reasons being it's quite addictive, and also that apparently if you overdose, there's no antidote. So that's how he decided to go. Darcy would have faced extradition to Ireland to stand trial for the murder of Maria Dominic, and so police believed that he just couldn't face this. Apparently, there were two suicide notes left, but there was no information or hints or tips or confession belonging to Maria Dominic or the disappearance of her mother, Virginia. Police believe that Darcy was attracted to Maria and Virginia's money, not them. They think that he followed Maria to Paris and eventually killed her for the money that she had cashed when in Ireland. They think then that he, raced back to America and killed her mother, either the day before or the day Maria was due to arrive back, because she knew he was involved, or that, eventually it would come out that he was involved, and that she would suspect him. I have to think there was like just more to it than just simply killing. Like, why would you wait until she's in Paris, to follow her across the Atlantic? Also, if you haven't been talking because she broke up with you, how would you know that she took that much money with her? Unless you just talk because you knew she was wealthy, she done that. But like, how would you know that she had, 6 grand or more than 6 grand in traveller's checks? Then I'd wonder why he didn't just kill her in Paris. But I guess if he had to wait till she cashed the checks, then he had to wait till London. But then, why not kill her in London? Or why not kill her in Dublin when you arrive to Dublin? Why wait till you get all the way to Clare? Like, you're just leaving, there's more chance of leaving a paper trail or leaving some sort of trace, which is eventually obviously how they caught him. But that was the risk that, so I don't know really why you would do that. And then also, if she had broken up with him and wanted nothing to do with him, like, when he arrived, why would you not be like, what are you doing here? Go home, like, go away. And I don't want you here. But she didn't. Like, it would be a great romantic gesture, wouldn't it, for someone to travel across the Atlantic to, to show that they really want to be with you. I'm going to leave my wife and kids. Whatever. You don't know what was said between them, what happened. So maybe he arrived and it was this big romantic gesture, and they decided, and then that's why they decided, let's go to London and then we'll go on to Ireland, and I'll show you Ireland, I'll show you Dublin, I'll show you the romantic, views of the cliffs of Moher and stuff. Maybe that was the case. I at first, when I started reading the story, I actually thought, I was like, oh, like, is she pregnant? Did she tell him that she had found out she was pregnant, and that's why he came over, and that's why he killed her? But obviously the medical examiner would have released if she was pregnant, so I have to obviously assume that's not right. Like the letter, Maria said she was going to write her mum a letter. Perhaps she did, and like, if Darcy had to keep up this ruse of like, oh, we're on this like romantic, little breakaway, if she had then posted a letter to her mum saying like, oh, I'm now in London, and I met with Patrick or whatever, he couldn't stop her from writing the letter really, and then so would it have to be that he'd have to go through with his plan of killing her and then get back. Like, from the 23rd of May is when he flew back to Paris, so I'm not sure about time differences and stuff, but even if he got back to New York on the 24th, that was still 6 days, so he had plenty of time to get back and do something. Like, maybe Darcy, maybe the letter was what was in that drawer in the apartment that had been locked and been opened, so maybe he found the letter in there and got rid of it. If he had romantic relations with Virginia, maybe that could have been how he lured her out of the apartment as well, like, under pretenses of to meet to rekindle their relationship, or to talk about it, or to do whatever. But yeah, I feel like there's a bit more to it than just simply he followed her to kill her for the money. I don't know. I think there's a bit more. Maria's body um, was flown back to be laid to rest in Puerto Rico. Police believe that Patrick Darcy murdered her, and the case is closed. They also believe that he is responsible for Virginia's disappearance, but she has never been seen and her body has not been found. So this was another case. I'm since I decided to start doing these videos, there's obviously a lot of Irish cases that a lot of people know, and a lot of people on YouTube have discussed them and they've done them well. And so I just wanted to talk about ones that people don't talk about, that are just not known. And since going on my little quest, I'm amazed at how many stories that are like, unusual stories or bizarre stories that I've never even heard of. But sometimes I say them to my parents and they'll say like, oh yeah, like Charlie Self, like as soon as I said it, they're like, oh yeah, for the Late Late Show, like, and so they, they knew it, but it's just not, they're just not talked about. Um, so this was another one I just thought was so unusual. I had never heard of it, and the fact that it's just, it's it's Clare, it's Dublin, it's London, it's Paris, it's New York, it's just, and in Puerto Rico, like it's just a lot of different places involved, and it's just for such a, I don't know, just interesting. I hope you enjoyed learning about Maria and Virginia and Patrick. So thank you for watching and listening, and hopefully I will see you in the next video. Thanks.